Hi, I'm Tom Corbett, and you're watching Abington News and Views.
Welcome back. I'm Ed Boyd, and we've been talking with Bud Hannings, a Glenside resident, former Marine, former Abington Commissioner, president of Seniram Publishing Companies, author of 10 books, 5.5 million words published. It's just a number I can't get over. And whose latest work will be coming out at the end of this summer on the War of 1812. Bud Hannings, welcome back to Abington News and Views. Each of these books are detailed chronologically.
Right.
You go through day by day in each one of these wars and bring the audience a synopsis of each day. How do you find this information? What research methods do you use?
Well, primarily government sources when they're available, and then excluding the modern day stuff back into the French and Indian War, or all the way back to the Crusades, which are not necessarily in these books. I go to 19th century sources. I try to avoid contemporary authors because they're just not meticulous in their research, and I don't mean to judge them, but I don't trust them. So I go back to the original sources.
And your audience, these obviously are books of history, but they're not necessarily. They may be for a history buff, but they're not for your average history reader. So who is your target audience? Who is it that you're writing for when you write these books?
Any American that's 10 years old or older. These books can be enjoyed by a high school dropout or a college graduate. The $3 and $4 words are in there when necessary, but if you're going to write a book on history and it's going to be boring, don't write the darn thing. So we try to spice it up, and it's worthwhile. We just are not trying to prove how smart the author is. The author didn't do anything. I'm just relaying what these magnificent men have done.
And of these, which one was the most challenging as far as perhaps finding the background information that was necessary, or filling the holes?
It's always a challenge. Now, I give an example. There are several books out on the Revolution. Well, probably thousands, but two that I had. The author just had more than 100 factual errors in the book on generals, and then another one on the signers of the Declaration. Another scholarly writer had more than 100 factual errors in the book. You just can't use them. You have to go back to Benson Losing and authors like that who didn't have computers. And
so you highly stress then the go back to the original sources of the stories, right?
Yeah. I have thousands of 19th century works, either hardcover or online copies, and it does make your work easier, but it's still a challenge because there are so many generals with the same names and so many officers with the same names.
How do you confirm something like that? How do you know when you've got the right George?
I guess the easiest thing is sometimes it takes an hour or two to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Because, for example, in the War of 1812, there are about 7 or 8 ships, privateers, named Decatur after Stephen Decatur. Out of Charleston, out of Baltimore, out of Portland, Maine, just to name a few. And then you read and you say, well, that's great, Decatur. Which one is it?
Right.
So you have to go backtrack all through your manuscript or other manuscripts to conclude which is the correct one.
For a typical Bud Hannings, publication, how many hours of research, not hours, days, years worth of research does it take?
Well, let's just say I live as a Carmelite nun, almost.
Okay.
Not in all aspects, but all I seem to do is research and write, and mostly research. And your mind, you do make stupid mistakes. Everybody does, but hopefully you catch them. The dumbest one I've ever made is I had Abraham Lincoln show up at Abraham Lincoln's funeral, and I got it back from a woman friend of mine, Chris Ernst, and her husband Bill, and they said, "Boy, you must have really had old Abe propped up for this one," and then it dawned on me that it was Johnson, but no matter how meticulous you research things, your mind plays tricks on you.
That's an incredible story. Did you have difficulty with these and distribution and any point along the way?
Well, no longer, because you find out that when you form a publishing company, the magic ingredient is distribution. I never achieved great distribution rights, so the book that could really help students, professors, etc., didn't get out there as well as it should have. But as time went on, I began working with a publishing company in North Carolina, McFarland.
And a few people have heard of them.
Distribution has been solved.
Right.
But this is them, not me. I'm still a professional PFC. There's too many generals in this world. But McFarland prices the book and does all the work. I just write the book. However, their prices are a little expensive. The books range from $125 to $245. So your average person can't afford to buy the book, but they can contact the library. If you can get the best information available for free at the library, that's how to get it.
I was reading the reviews as I was prepping for this show, and I noticed that the reviews from publications such as Leathernecks and all was just outstanding. But more importantly, I guess, these books are in the National Archives.
Right.
How did that process work? How did you get to there? And
I was doing some research, and once in a while you have to put your own name in or the title of your book to see what's going on. And I think it was at Left Wing Google that I put this in. And it came up, Bud Hannings, National Archives. I said, what the heck is this? So I tab it, and they were bragging that they had gotten a copy of, I think it was the Fort book. And so I contacted them. If I was a famous author, I wouldn't have had the time, but I had plenty of time as the world's most unknown author. I contacted them and thanked them, and they were astonished at me calling them. And as it turned out now, they have since selected every book ever published by me in the National Archives. And, someone might say, so what? All right, well, they can say whatever they want. I'm writing for posterity, not the dollar sign.
Right.
And we have even my military sidekick. That's been selected for the reference department of the National Archives.
It's an incredible achievement, something that you really should be proud of. We're talking with Bud Hannings, author of several military history books, and we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.